In world news tonight, President Bush says he doesn't have a credibility problem with the rest of the world. He tells our White House correspondent the way to solve problems with Iran is diplomatically. Registering to vote in Iraq's elections. Today's the day for 1 million Iraqi exiles here and in 13 other countries. A look at the world's largest passenger plane, the largest ever built, a $12 billion program. We have a preview. And why would a mother take the risk of using another mother's breast milk for her child?
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening, everyone. We begin tonight with burden and with possibility. This is inauguration week for President Bush, and as his second term is about to begin, as he begins to lay out a very ambitious second-term agenda, a new ABC News Washington Post poll reveals a comparatively weak approval rating, subdued expectations in general, and huge concern about Iraq. 52% of Americans approve of the way Mr. Bush is doing his job. 61% of people say Iraq should be the highest priority. By way of comparison, the next most important issue, Social Security, was thought to be that crucial by only 35%. Our White House correspondent, Terry Moran, sat down to question the president today.
President, you're about to...
In the library of the White House this afternoon, a confident President Bush brushed off a suggestion that he may have to deal with lingering doubts about how he launched the war in Iraq.
The next time you have to go to the world and say there's a threat in some country, why, after you were so wrong about the weapons in Iraq, should people believe you?
Well, I think the world recognized that Saddam Hussein was a threat.
Still, I'm asking you to look forward, if I may. Don't you and the country now have a credibility problem?
No, obviously, you know, if we were to make a case that the world needs to act in concert on another country, we would want to be very careful about that which we presented.
Mr. Bush is clearly optimistic about Iraq and what it means for the Middle East.
I believe that, one, there will be elections. Two, there will be a democratic state in Iraq. And three, such a state will serve as an example for the neighborhood.
Domestically, Mr. Bush tried to calm concerns about his proposal to allow workers to take money out of Social Security and put it into the stock market.
The stock market can be risky. What if it goes down when you're ready to retire? How do you answer that?
There will be strict guidelines investment guidelines, just like federal workers have in their thrift accounts. Over time, stocks and bonds and mutual funds yield a rate of return that's much better than that which is in the Social Security Trust.
Overall, this is a president who still wants to be a uniter.
At home and abroad, you are a polarizing figure. Do you regret that, and how will you fix it?
Well, I think the decisions I made in the last 4 years will make the world a better place. I have a responsibility to try to unite this country to achieve big things for all Americans. I will say that in my inaugural address, and I'm looking forward to the challenge.
Mr. Bush also said he's become an old hand at being president. It's a job, Peter, he is clearly enjoying these days.
Many thanks, Terry. Terry Moran at the White House. Let us now go back to those expectations about Iraq. In northern Iraq today, there was another very calculated attempt to create fear and tension between religious communities. Gunmen kidnapped the Catholic Archbishop in Mosul. Iraq's Christian community is very small, about 3% of the population, but it has been the victim of several attacks in the last year. In other parts of the country today, more than 20 members of the Iraqi security forces were killed. Insurgents attacked National Guard soldiers at a checkpoint near Bakuba, and a suicide bomber attacked a police station in Beji. General George Casey, the commander of the multinational force in Iraq, said today there was going to be more violence on Election Day. And he said the enemy is resourceful and persistent. Well, the individual Iraqis campaigning for a seat in the new National Assembly know that only too well. ABC's David Wright on that subject tonight from Baghdad.
Shiite candidate Salama al-Khafaji has now survived 3 assassination attempts. The only protection she has is her bodyguard and her flak jacket.
You can barely notice.
She does not get any police protection. Hardly any candidates do. The gunmen who ambushed her car yesterday were wearing Iraqi police uniforms.
It's not because I'm a woman. Everyone is a target.
Today, al-Khafaji canceled her plans to visit Shiite cities in the south. Her staff told her that armed insurgents have set up checkpoints, using dead bodies to block the paths of cars.
But how could I pass now from Baghdad to the south of Iraq? This is the problem.
There are 111 names on the ballot, mostly new political parties. The vast majority of the candidates are anonymous for fear that they will become targets.
What are you living for? What are you fighting for?
For a new Iraq, for a new future for my children and for Iraqi children, for a future that the child will play with toys and not with guns.
This campaign has already cost Al-Kafaji her 17-year-old son, killed in the first assassination attempt. She says she wants to finish this race for him.
I know I shall not die. Yes, it's the God will. I lived only the God will, not the will of the terrorist.
Last May, she signed her name to Iraq's interim constitution. Now she wants to help write the new one. David Wright, ABC News, Baghdad.
Where children will play with toys and not with guns. Well, in 14 countries today, including the United States, Iraqis who've been living in exile began registering to vote in the Iraqi elections. They're the end of next week. It's estimated that about 1 million exiles are eligible to participate. About 240,000 of them live here, and many of them are eager to take part. Here's ABC's Dean Reynolds.
At the Detroit voter registration site today, Husham al-Husseini was inspired by what he saw.
And this is reminding me, in the day of Martin Luther King, we all can say, free at last.
The imam said it was a unifying process for Iraq, a nation with deep divisions.
Christian, lift your hand. Very good. The Muslims, lift your hand. You see? Iraqis, raise your hand.
In addition to the site in Detroit, registration for Iraq's national election will go on through next Sunday at 4 other cities: Nashville, Chicago, Los Angeles, and suburban Washington. Noman Shubar drove down to Washington from Philadelphia.
Compared to what people have to endure in Iraq, this is nothing.
They came by the busload and faced tight security. Proof of Iraqi citizenship or heritage required.
Bring that with you. That's very important.
One election official in Chicago had some bad news for an out-of-towner.
If you have the documents at home, you can come back with them?
Yeah, I'm from Nebraska.
But for others who made the 500-mile drive from Lincoln with the right IDs, the trip to Chicago was a thrill.
This is the first time, so everyone feels like free.
Still, the ballot with more than 100 choices will be daunting.
There's been a bit of obscurity as to who the candidates are and what the parties are.
This morning, the now formally registered Iraqis were heading home, some facing a 10 to 12-hour drive to get there, but knowing that later this month, an even more important round trip awaits them. Dean Reynolds, ABC News, Chicago.
And now we're going to go from Iraq to Iran. There is a huge argument in Washington today about whether the Bush administration is conducting secret missions overseas without the traditional oversight from Congress. And does the U.S. now have its sights on Iran? Accusations to this effect are in the New Yorker magazine today, written by the investigative reporter Seymour Hersh. The claim about Iran in particular got a very tough response at the Pentagon. Here's ABC's John Cochran.
The New Yorker article says the president has authorized, quote, secret commando groups and other special forces units to conduct covert operations. Author Seymour Hersh says the U.S. has already sent military reconnaissance teams into eastern Iran, hunting for evidence of nuclear weapon sites.
One of the things I know they would like is something physical to show that Iran has been cheating. I don't know if they can get that, but they're planning, radioactive sniffer devices.
Hersh says President Bush chose the Pentagon to spy on Iran because he has little confidence in the CIA and because the law does not require the Pentagon to report to Congress on covert activities.
If you're going to run this kind of stuff, the fewer people that know, the better, is the way the White House looks at it.
The president was asked about that today in the ABC interview.
I haven't read it, but I think you ought to listen to what the Pentagon has said about that, and that is, it wasn't true.
What the Pentagon said was a blistering rebuttal, that Hersh's article was riddled with errors. But the Pentagon did not deny that military units are spying in Iran or elsewhere.
While undercover operations in Iran may alarm some Mideast experts, one with close ties to the White House applauds the idea.
Iran has got a nuclear program, and it would be irresponsible if the United States weren't trying to collect intelligence about that nuclear program.
A former Bush administration official told ABC News it may be a good thing that the Iranians are hearing about undercover operations. He said, if the Iranians think we mean business, that gives them one more reason to give up any nuclear weapons program. John Cochran, ABC News, Washington.
Another confrontation between Mr. Hirsch and the administration on a very sensitive subject. When we come back this evening on this Martin Luther King Day, what black Americans want from a second term of the president. We'll take a closer look. Also tonight, unveiling the world's largest passenger plane, 1 million pounds fully loaded. And at the end of the broadcast tonight, for mothers, turning to other mothers for breast milk and the risks involved.
This is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings, brought to you by Cialis.
This is Martin Luther King Day, as you know, to commemorate Dr. King's birthday. Had he not been assassinated in 1968 when he was 38 and lived on, the great civil rights leader would be 76 this year. In towns and cities across the country, Dr. King's principal message of social change through nonviolence was the centerpiece of meetings and rallies and parades. In Philadelphia, 45,000 people took part in community service projects to honor his legacy. In Los Angeles, the annual parade was 3 miles long. President Bush attended a celebration for Dr. King at the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts in Washington. The president said that Dr. King left his country a different and a better place through the example of his courage. As we've said, this is inauguration week, and the president's plans for a second term are getting a good look. Mr. Bush has said in the past that he wants black Americans in the Republican Party. He got only 9% of the black vote 4 years ago and 11% in this election. ABC's Dan Harris reports tonight on a difficult relationship.
Today at a Martin Luther King Day event in Harlem, people readily ticked off areas where they feel the president could do better.
I would say he needs to put education at the very top of his list.
Employment, getting better jobs.
The list goes on and on and on. If I was a school teacher, you'd have an F.
At the Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta, where Martin Luther King preached, many say the president must reorder his priorities.
We're spending billions of dollars on that war, and then we have citizens of our nation, our prosperous nation, who don't have health care.
In his first 4 years, Mr. Bush angered many blacks by supporting a lawsuit against affirmative action and by refusing to speak to the NAACP. The outgoing head of the NAACP, Kwesi Mfume, met with the president recently. He says Mr. Bush expressed frustration that he got much more support from blacks as governor of Texas.
The larger black community of the United States wants a president that they feel they have some access to, a president who understands genuinely what their issues are.
Bush supporters say he has increased funding for education and appointed many minorities to high-level positions. According to the Reverend William Gray, a former congressman, appointments matter far less than combating discrimination.
Colin Powell can go and stand on the corner in New York City, let him try and get a cab. If the cab driver doesn't recognize it's Colin Powell and all they see is a black skin, he's going to have a hard time.
Reverend Gray says if the president does more to fight racism, he could get more support from African Americans, who are otherwise quite conservative on issues ranging from gay marriage to abortion to taxes. While blacks want progress, many are not optimistic.
It doesn't look too bright for me.
Low expectations can, however, be a boon. As one black activist said, the president won't have to do much to have an impact. Dan Harris, ABC News, New York.
When we come back this evening, a big story this week, a new era in air travel, a super jumbo jet, 800 passengers. Well, there is quite an extraordinary aviation milestone being passed this week in France tomorrow. You get a hint of it there. The world's largest passenger jet is going to be unveiled. To give you a clue, the curtain that will part tomorrow to reveal the Airbus A380 is 10 stories high. In some ways, the plane is more like an ocean liner than an airplane. And it will carry, as you're going to hear a couple of times tonight and tomorrow, as many as 800 passengers on 2 decks. At least one aviation analyst has said that everything about it is mind-boggling. With a preview, here's ABC's Bob Jamieson.
Airbus tried to keep the A380 out of sight, but it's just too big. It is longer than Boeing's 747. The Wright brothers' first flight could have taken place twice inside. Its wingspan is nearly the length of a football field.
Passengers are greeted not by a cramped entrance, but by a wide staircase reminiscent of a cruise ship. It leads to an upper deck which runs the entire length of the plane.
Some might have a flying pub. Some might actually have a little gym, an exercise room.
Some airlines are planning an onboard duty-free shop. Some plan showers.
You have the ability to get up, to move around. The seats are bigger.
Everything about the A380 is big. The giant components made in Europe. A factory the size of 15 football fields where they're assembled, and the huge job to move the parts there. They first must be transported by sea, then by river in France, scraping under 17th century bridges, and finally along narrow roads first built by the Romans, creeping through tiny villages with only inches to spare.
This is an incredibly complex procedure. It's considerably bigger than creating an entirely new shipyard, for example, or building a skyscraper or anything so mundane.
So far, 11 foreign airlines, as well as FedEx and UPS, have bought almost 150 of the Super Jumbos at more than $250 million a copy. Singapore will be the first to fly it next year.
For us, this is an opportunity to take the level of customer service to a different plane.
What's next? Airbus will now stretch the A380 to carry 800 passengers. Bob Jamieson, ABC News, Toulouse.
We'll have a report tomorrow on the unveiling, the actual unveiling in France. When we come back this evening, the tremendous pressure on women to breastfeed and the underground network of women who are sharing their breast milk at some risk. Finally from us this evening, an issue for the mothers, who more than anything else, of course, want healthy children. Given that many of us have children well out of school, we may forget that every time a child is born, the subject comes up, bottle or breast. And if you go to breastfeeding on the internet, as we did today, you could spend the next several days reading about the benefits and the challenges. Women feel tremendous pressure to breastfeed. Here's ABC's Kate Snow.
Angela Keene's 21-month-old daughter, Morgan, is thriving on breast milk, milk that does not come from Angela.
Well, Morgan started with me on my breast milk, and I did that for 6 months exclusively. And then we tried her on hypoallergenic formula, and it didn't agree with her.
Morgan was born with a severe heart defect and a rare syndrome that made it hard to gain weight. And then Angela's friend Tricia started pumping and passing on little bags of frozen breast milk.
To see Morgan grow, to see the pictures they put up on her website, there's one where she looks chubby. And the first time I saw that, I just burst into tears because, that's why I do it.
Angela and Tricia are part of a quiet underground trend. Women sharing breast milk. Women embracing the health benefits of breastfeeding who can't produce enough milk on their own, turning to others. The internet offers information on how to share with family members, friends, or even strangers. But there are serious people who think this is a mistake. Doctors warn breast milk can become contaminated if it's not properly handled. Medications can show up in the milk, and worse, breast milk can transmit diseases such as the HIV virus. Even the biggest advocacy group for breastfeeding, La Leche League, warns against exchanging milk.
My comment would be that a mother doesn't need to take that risk. That yes, there are risks involved.
The American Academy of Pediatrics suggests mothers go to breast milk banks where donors are screened and the milk is pasteurized. But there are only 7 banks in the entire United States.
But going through a bank can be expensive. At $3.25 an ounce plus shipping, it can cost from $50 to $100 a day to feed a baby.
And so some mothers will continue to take the calculated risk of donor milk. Doctors stress those moms should have both the donor and the milk tested. Kate Snow, ABC News, New York.
And that is our report on World News Tonight. Hope we'll see you again tomorrow. I'm Peter Jennings. Good night.